What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's talk about it. Welcome to Screen Fiend yet again. Thank you guys who have subbed to the page. We appreciate all the love and support as we are moving forward now to discuss this epic topic and this epic conclusion of the saga. The Last Jedi, to me, was the better movie out of the three. Even though I love the first one, this one I think had more grip, more bite. What's up, Kristen Edwards? This is your page. Screen Fiend is rolling. Now, this scene has finally been explained, as people were very confused when Rey touched the mirror what was happening when she saw herself. When Rey went to touch the mirror, what had transpired? Now, here's the situation. Rey is of a different stature as far as the Force. And when she thought she eliminated Chewie, I love The Last Jedi. Only thing I didn't like was Canto Bite. Everything else was great. Now, let's get to this mirror scene and why it meant so much. The reason why the mirror scene is in here because it fits with the original script and what they were actually going with Rey. Rey was supposed to be a clone. She was going to be a Palpatine clone made from the Force. And this is from episode 9 was supposed to be titled Veil of the Force. Veil of the Force was supposed to be the last one, which was going to explain what this mirror was about. There's a power within the mirror, which is called Veil of the Force. That there's a force power within the mirrors that Palpatine had learned how to use. That's why this mirror was important, and it was in the movie and in the script, because it's also in Rebels, Star Wars Rebels. How Palpatine and, although they used this mirror, which is a veil of the Force. George Lucas informed Disney about it. In the original script, when George Lucas helped out, he did this scene where Anakin Skywalker would be introduced to Rey in a vision on the ship after believing Chewie died. He's the one to tell her that Palpatine has returned. It was Anakin who tells her on the ship as he makes a vision of her and speaks to her directly. And the veil of the Force through this mirror shows how Palpatine was able to use the power from this mirror to create life and manipulate and survive the Death Star explosion. It's called the Veil of the Force. All of this was cut out of the movie, and we might get to see that version of it later in an edition of a deleted scenes edition that comes out later. But we didn't get that version yet. That they decided to cut it out of the movie. But when it was shown, the approval rating was through the roof as they had the Anakin Skywalker scene in the film just took the popularity to a whole new height. But Disney decided to cut it out. Very foolishly. Now, they wanted Kylo Ren to be the one to break the news to Rey. That scene is an added bonus scene when they're on the ship and she's running away and he talks to her and tells her that all about what had happened and that Emperor Palpatine is the one who, is her father and all this, her grandfather and all this stuff. None of that was in the script. None of it. That was an added bonus scene just so he could do the reveal when he meets her on the ship. That was an add-on piece. The add-on was so noticeable that they didn't even get a chance to finish the artwork on the mask. They made a mistake on the artwork on the mask, which I saw from the very first time watching the film. It was quite noticeable. Now, here's the thing. The reason why Rey sees herself is because she had no lineage. She had no history. The vision that she has of her parents and all of that is all implanted. She has no parents. She comes from the Force. So she was like a clone made by the Force with the manipulation of Palpatine, which is how he made Anakin, same way she was made. So, there was supposed to be other failed attempts to make Reys and other children. So that this whole thing went to the veil of bringing back Palpatine. When they wanted to go the route of bringing in Palpatine, this is the rewrite of the script after they decide to go in this Palpatine direction. George Lucas brings in the veil of the Force as the introduction in the way it would make sense to bring Palpatine back from the dead. They went with a whole new idea. New writer had another idea saying, we don't need George Lucas, thank you, we'll just use this. And that idea was very stupid. To have him on some life support machines and all this stuff. But this is Hollywood, and this is what happens. So that's why Rian Johnson has this mirror scene in here. It was important and a very good part of the script. Very huge part of the script in actuality. You said, what's the first Star Wars? You said, I thought I was watching Transformers watching this one. Well, Ryan Johnson was following the original script. The thing is that they panicked because fans was, hey, they killed Luke. Luke didn't get in a lightsaber battle, and all the things that they thought they were going to see, they didn't see. So because they didn't see what was projected in front of them, they just turned to automatic hating the movie. I hate this movie. Arr! And ever since then, problems, and more problems have ensued. And Disney panicked and decided we're going to redo the whole movie. Brought in J.J. Abrams, who was just supposed to produce the film, and brought J.J. in. They fired everybody who was basically making the movie and went in another direction, which pissed off the actor Oscar Isaacs, wasted his performance and ruined his character in the Rise of Skywalker. He was supposed to be romantically involved with Rey. It was supposed to be a little bit of jealousy with the character that they created just for this movie. Bringing in the Asian community, bringing in Rose. All the good things they did with Rose in this film, they totally omitted in the second one. As all the internet people decide to just ream down on the actress that plays Rose. And you almost drove her to suicide. That's how bad people were. Yeah, we had her crying on stage because she was like almost in tears watching the movie. Well, the thing of it is, it's such a hard struggle, and it shouldn't even be. J.J. Abrams don't like interracial anything in his movies. He don't. He wants everything to flow with the story. White man, white girl, black boy, black girl. Let's get Finn another black girl. That's what I think it needs. Finn should be with a black girl, and maybe Rose, she might find a nice alien or another Asian looking creature we could put her with. And that way we could focus on Rey falling in love with Kylo. Huh? This thing makes no sense. We understand that Kylo was obsessed with her, but she was not going to be with him. Their paths were not in line. And even though he decides to get in line, that was not going to work for Rey. Their connection was that they were jointed by the Force because she's a Skywalker. She's a Skywalker. That's it. And they find out that Palpatine was their granddaddy. So Luke Skywalker, that was his grand. That was supposed to be the big reveal that we already knew, that the Emperor was their granddaddy. He the pappy. He the pappy. So that was the really big, huge reveal. Everybody wants to hit me up now. Revenge of the Sith is the best one. That's funny. That's the one that people hate the most. And and for me, next to Attack of the Clones. But the thing is, I love that movie. That's one of the best to me. I love it, but it's not. I wouldn't rank it above the first three, but I would definitely put him in order. I would say I would go three, episode three, episode one, then episode two out of the old prequels. I like Phantom Menace better than Attack of the Clones. Well, the thing is that episode three failed to do what it was supposed to do. It was so much left to explain that it should have been two movies. But back then, they didn't know they could do all that. And they was like, it's going to mess up the number sequence. We're going to go three, then four. But it was so much left to tell because they wanted, George is so determined on story. You see, Star Wars is about a story. That's what people abandoned when they got to this new era. They abandoned the story and went to characters. And it was all about characters. And Lucas is not like that. Lucas is about story. The characters will shine and come out of the story. It's not how Disney works. Disney is like, no, it's about the characters in this the show. We do lights, we do firework, we need bigger and bolder. We need everything just glamorous, shining. We need a trumpet player. We need all these things sparkles. But what is it about? Who cares? It looks great. And once they start doing this, everything starts falling apart. You're writing a story around characters instead of writing a story in which characters shine out of it. And that was the difference. And that's the difference between the writing styles. Now, unfortunately for George Lucas, is that he waited too long to make episodes 1, 2, and 3. Now, what you guys didn't know is that episodes 1, 2, and 3 were going to happen in the early 90s. Yep. George Lucas was getting started to do episodes 1, 2, and 3, the prequels. And CBS at that time was going through a structural change with the company. Sony came in and started buying up the rights. And George, they wanted more ownership into the merchandising part of Star Wars. And they wanted to get a piece of what George had. And things started to turn, not in the favor of LucasArts. I know you're probably like, what? I'm kind of confused here. Let me unclog your confusion. Just a bit. Here's the issue. And it's a quite simple one, but then not so quite. George Lucas was ready to start work on episode 1, 2, and 3 with the writing process. He had already knew where he wanted to go with the story, and he wanted to do really and explain the journey of the Wilts. And that's what he wanted to go down with episodes 1, 2, and 3. Kind of giving some detailed text of the Wilts and how that was going to proceed. The people at CBS who were really going to buy this and be on board with it, with the, 21st Century Fox. Fox Studio at that time had a new partnership, And they weren't too keen about this Wilts and thought it was just a little too weird. And the story of Palpatine was never really told, of the Emperor. And people were intrigued to know about the Emperor. So, the story of Anakin Skywalker was basically the story of Palpatine. So they coincide with each other. Star Wars is huge. And we need someone who could tell this story greater than any person we've ever seen on this earth. George Lucas. Can't do it without him. So what did they do? They said, let's hold off for a minute. George get the writing and we're just going to go ahead and do it. So they cut a check. George got with his original team and they wrote a better script. One that was around politics. One that would be approved by Hollywood, and they loved the script. It was more like a political drama than it was a movie for kids. George Lucas has now stepped into a new realm. This is why episode 1 was hated so much by so many fans, and it was a great movie, but you didn't know what you were going to see. You thought you were going to see a Star Wars Battle Galactic film, and you did, but you just did not know it was going to be this much dialogue. And all these things that would confuse children. See, in Star Wars lore, where people need to pay very close attention to, Star Wars has always been about kids. It was for kids. And this is what it was all about. So when you see this happen, you say to yourself, well, Star Wars is about the kids. It's for the kids. It should be for the kids. It's the way it's supposed to be. This should work. Now, one major problem. Star Wars fans in 1999 are now in their 20s and 30s. They're grown up. And because they're grown up, you have a new problem. And you know what that new problem is? The younger kids are just starting to learn Star Wars, and they want to come in and they need characters. So now you got to write in kid characters around this complex story about adults. So now you enter Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar was loved by the kids. The adults hated it. They hated Jar Jar Binks. And because we hated Jar Jar so much, the majority of the Star Wars fans are us. Period. The adults. We're taking the kids and we're like, look, I hate this Jar Jar guy. Why is he in my movie? He's in the way. It's like, dude, you have kids here. It's a lot of complex dialogue going on here. I don't need all that talking. Where's Luke? Where's Darth Vader? So that's what they was on. Hey, what's up? Did your sister go to school yet?
No, she's going in August.
In August? Okay. Yeah, because I got to give her card.
Okay, yeah, I'll let her know.
All right.
All right,
So they went ahead and altered everything because that was for kids. And he was like, look, I made this for kids. People thought that they were going to see a whole different Darth Vader. Like the Darth Vader they thought they were going to see was not some little kid. They wanted to see Darth Vader as a young teenager. That's where Lucas went wrong. We didn't need to see Anakin as a baby. Let's to the story a little quicker. We're going to run out of time to explain They want to know, how did this guy go from this to Darth Vader? But the way Lucas tells the story, it happens when he's young, and you see the pain of losing the mom and everything. And the story makes sense if you actually pay attention to it. And you get to see Palpatine and his manipulation in the ranks, and how he was political, and how he was moving up the charts and everything in the ranks, and how he manipulated to get power. Because this is what Star Wars is about. It's a war. It's about power and how he manipulated. So this is how the United States were able to move around during the time. It was always our way and no other way. So Star Wars went down this road. And since Star Wars went down the same path, that's when people turned against... This is when people turned against, the whole Star Wars lore. And thought the whole thing sucked just because. No other reason. Just hate. That's all. But in episode 3, there was so much to explain, because in episode 2, they was trying to rush this love story, because by starting so young and then having Queen Amidala come into play and her being older than him, it just kind of didn't make sense. That this woman is going to end up marrying Anakin, this little kid. So by the next film, there's Anakin Skywalker. It would have made more sense. Lucas hates flashback scenes. In case you guys don't know George Lucas does not like flashback scenes. He thinks flashback scenes are a terrible way to tell a story. If you got to do a flashback scene, George Lucas hates it. So in Star Wars, he was never going to do a flashback scene. He hated that they did it, and The Last Jedi, which is the first Star Wars movie to do a flashback scene, well, it kind of happened in we didn't know at the time. Was it a previous vision or whatever when Rey touched the lightsaber? So kind of The Force Awakens, the new series, did it, but he thinks it's unnecessary and doesn't need to be told in that format using flashback scenes. He just thinks that's a lazy way of telling the story. I've always liked George Lucas and the way George Lucas tells a story. I mean, by the time he was 20, she was 24. So it kind of made sense, you know. Because remember, she got elected into office and was elected queen at 14 years of age. So she was only 4 years older than Anakin. So when he was 10, she was 14. So it just, at that time, it just looks weird. Natalie Portman's playing a 14-year-old girl. And then she turns around and, does some other things. Well, the world is different. Star Wars Rebels is great because you can get a lot out of it. It's a series. But if Star Wars Rebels was a movie, you wouldn't like it. Because you got so much limited time to tell the story. Now, in episode 3, they had to tell you the story of the start of the rebellion, which most of it was cut out in the deleted scenes because they were running out of time. You got to go through the start of the rebellion. It was the best fighting Star Wars movie there's ever been. You got the Emperor fighting with Mace Windu. You have Mace Windu. You got Count Dooku fighting with Anakin and Obi-Wan. You got the Emperor fighting with Yoda. You got Anakin fighting with Obi-Wan at the end. That thing was duels. That's the duels of the fates right there. But the studio changed a lot. They changed the final scene and how Anakin got sliced. Obi-Wan was supposed to cut him accidentally. And Anakin's own arrogance and his lust for power made him take this leap. And he told him, don't do it. Anakin was so possessed by the dark side of the Force, he believed he could actually fly. And that his new abilities and the rush of power he felt, he could actually fly. So he thought he could fly over the head of Anakin. Had he completed landing over Obi-Wan's head, he would have finished him. But doing that move did not pan well for him. I think they're doing it the right way now by having Obi-Wan doing the things he's doing now. I think that is the perfect way to do it in a TV streaming series. Kathleen Turner believes, and so does everybody believe, that they ruined Solo, the movie Solo, by putting it out too soon after Star Wars. They put it out way too soon. The problems I have with them is I knew Star Wars was in trouble due to the way they handled Solo. If you look at the deleted scenes of Solo, you see a much better film. Ron Howard was chosen to direct it. Ron Howard's direction is a lot better than the reshoots that you see in the one that you saw in the movie theater. I want to see the Ron Howard version. Put out Ron Howard's version, because Ron Howard is more grit, is more believable. But if you look at the new version that they got out now, that one's more Disney. And I can see why Ron Howard said, "Look, I can't do this. I don't know what y'all trying to make." Look at all the scenes they deleted from the Ron Howard version and say, "Oh my goodness, why would you cut this out?" The Chewbacca scene when he first met Chewbacca, why would you cut this out? The first way they escape, why would you cut this scene out? This scene, the way they escaped, is a lot better than the one I saw in the movies. Why would you cut this? Who made this decision? So it's not about what's best for the film sometimes. It's about, do we like the person? I don't like his attitude. He don't seem like a good guy that's going to follow protocol. Yep. Now on the Patreon today, we gonna have this debate thing going on, so that ought to be interesting. That ought to be a nice coinky dink. This cap situation. So it's going down. They might move Solo into another Star Wars movie, maybe. They had him under contract, so they're paying him. They're paying the actor that played Solo. They got problem. The thing was this: they were all doing motion pictures. It was gonna be The Mandalorian that was supposed to be on a streaming service, but what they wanted to do is have a Boba Fett movie, an Obi-Wan movie. See if they can milk those up, and then all three of those are gonna meet up like in Avengers. They were setting up their own little Star Wars Avengers movie, where Obi-Wan's doing his adventures. Obi-Wan is doing his quests. You have Boba Fett doing his missions, which ended up being The Mandalorian. And now you was gonna have Solo. And at one point, they're all gonna meet up. As you can see, Solo was already geared up for a crossover into a Boba Fett side. Rogue One went through the same problems, and it accidentally became a classic. And the reason why is because they got out of Rogue One what they couldn't get out of 3 films from the prequels. They wanted to see Darth Vader be Darth Vader in the doggone suit. That was the biggest disappointment in Revenge of the Sith. You see Darth Vader walk in the costume, he stands next to the Emperor, and then it goes off. You don't ever see him get to be Vader. We don't get to see him doing no Vader shit. We see him break up some doggone mechanical things. No. Nobody wanted to see that. We don't want to see whining Vader. We want to see Vader enraged. They should have showed Vader go to a planet and wipe everybody out. Boom, 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 boom. He goes over there to the grave to go see Padme. You should have, man, they should have had all this done differently. So when you saw him do that epic scene and going down that hallway and Rogue One, that made the movie go from a, man, this is a good movie, instead of 9, I'll say 8.5. Vader scene, that shit's off the chain. I'm going to see that again. That's how that went. When people saw Vader slaying in that movie, I tell you, the whole movie theater jumped. When he sliced dude off the ceiling, boom, had him on the ceiling and sliced him behind him. The dude in front of me was losing his mind. His kid was like, "What's wrong with you, Daddy?" Daddy was, Vader. He went through a thing because it meant something. And I said, they accomplished right here what Star Wars could not capitalize on. They capitalized on it. And Rogue One, that Vader scene became so huge, everybody wanted to rush to go back to the movies. And that's why that movie did $1 billion. They were like, we got to find a way to bring the characters back. Because in the original script, they don't die. They redid the movie and killed the characters and made them die right there in the way they did. And that was perfect to end the movie that way. So they got it right in the rewrites. Look, I didn't talk way too much. Let me get out of here. I'm sorry, I didn't talk y'all ear off. Don't forget, you guys can hit the, oh, it's too late for the super chat now. So you guys can hit up my cash out. Carcino, man. That was good. We had a good talk on Screen Fiend. That's good. Get back to some movie talk.